Hello, good evening. So bear with me. Just found all of the major arcana cards and lined them up, and I'm just getting my space situated. And then I'll pull up our group on my laptop so that ideally, as people hop on, it'll be an interactive experience. Yeah, this morning, I've been on a roll with doing a lot of spreads from Sasha Graham. But then I paused and I was thinking back on a conversation I had with my husband, who's also one of my star students, as I lovingly call him. And we were talking about when I very first started teaching tarot, how the major arcana was the very first thing that I covered. I worked through all of them and then I went to the minors, right? And as a group, we got through those. It's been a while since we've really brushed up on everything that we covered. And since I began this group, which was, we'll just say New Year's, which was when I really felt going into this year that this was a bit more of my calling. I know it sounds cheesy, but I figured, well, I'm very comfortable, say, reading for myself and others over coffee when I met one of my friends, and I'm thinking, well, why the heck not? Let's take something I love doing and see where it goes, because like I've always told you guys, if you don't try, you'll never know. And I don't want to be an elder on my deathbed one day wondering, well, what could have happened if I would have taken something that I would have loved as much as tarot and not expanded, and I'm glad that I took the gamble because, like I've alluded to in our other go lives, I've been able to meet so many different people from all sorts of various backgrounds and all of their stories, and with pretty cards, beautiful imagery on cards, to have these really great conversations with people and be present and kind of be a bit of a reflecting board for them. So it's really been cool. But not to go too far down the rabbit's hole, but it was one of those things where I was thinking, okay, it probably would not be a bad idea to brush up briefly on all of these. Of course, you know that all of my tarot teaching moments are on YouTube. So, if you go on to Mountain Crow Tarot on YouTube, I've got well over 90 videos, and they're all categorized by playlist. So, as you're learning tarot, and I'm going to shush me here, and you feel like you might need a review on a card, or if you're doing your own spread, at home, and a card's kind of got you stumped because there's a lot of symbols and so forth, I would say feel free to brush up by looking up the corresponding video on YouTube. But as always, in our group, more so than any cookbook that would ever accompany a deck, value what your inner intuition tells you when you look at the cards, because that's the beauty of it. We're not all supposed to look at the world the same and think the same, and human beings are very complex. So again, you value your intuition. So I knew that it was important that I basically go over these major arcana cards again for the purpose of a review, keeping it to the point, right? And then I was thinking of Laura Tempest Zakroff. I met her in Salem when she was presenting, and I totally, she was one of my favorite presenters. I had already owned Anatomy of a Witch Oracle. I did not think to pack this in my bag to have her sign it. But this is a really cool Oracle deck. It is one of my favorites to use. And she's got all these cool books. So like my friend Kathy that went to Salem with me got me turned on to one of her books that she just keeps going over as far as rereading it and highlighting it because the content is so valuable. If I can think of it, I'll bring my book that I've been reading with me next time down to my room here, and I'll show you what I've been reading. But like I told her, this lady, she was badass. She had on her back this beautiful snake going across with a torch going through the middle of the snake. Beautiful line work and shading on that tattoo. And the thing is, to be so like cool and knowledgeable, she was so funny and down to earth, and she was one of our favorite presenters, I think. So during her presentation, she actually gave us a handout as to what she covered that morning. I did not want to cover both the major and the minors in one evening, so I think I'm going to save the minors for another time this week. Either I'll do it for my next tarot teaching moment, or I'll do a fun spread and then we'll do the minors. The only thing is, I just want to put it out there, I'm using this as a reference, and I'm going based on my memory, which we covered a whole lot during all these workshops that weekend. So if, like, I will tell you what she wrote onto these sheets as we review the major arcana, and then we're going to dabble a bit in math, because that's another concept that she came up with as far as how to do mathematics with tarot, which I never would have thought to have done. So I will afterwards, I know her name's already linked to the post that I did with the tarot teaching moment, but I'll go ahead and put her social contacts. That way, if you want to check her out, you can. This is also a lady who not only is very knowledgeable, I mean, she's up there in my mind with Rachel Pollack, and I told her as much. This lady's phenomenally intelligent, conversing with her, listening to her speak. She's really cool. But she also dances. She's a performer, and she uses tarot as an inspiration. So I would encourage you to look up Laura Tempest Zakroff, which I know is a mouthful. Look her up on YouTube. You'll find all sorts of stuff that she has. Like, it's really, really cool. So I think we're just going to dive right in because, of course, I had to brag about her because she is the source of this really awesome info that we're about to dive into. And every so often, as I review each point, as we review the major arcana, I may interject some additional content, but I'm going to go based on the worksheet that she provided to myself and others who attended her presentation. So we know that we have the Fool, which is our very first major arcana card, and remember how the Fool starts with a 0. Okay, and as you know, and think of it again like an egg. So just like an egg, it's not been cracked, it's new, it's got potential, right? So with the Fool, we have the beginning, the egg, the doorway. Isn't it cool to think of the Fool like that? Like, as they're about to walk off the side of a cliff, it is, in a sense, it's a door. It's these various doors that we take, right? Start here and accumulate. So again, this is the beginning of a journey. And she has touchdown as a descriptor. So we know this is our beginning. And again, you know, feel free to do those tarot teaching moments on YouTube if you need anything more in depth than what I'm doing, because we're just going to do an overview with this, okay? The next is number 1 here, which is our Magician. And so our descriptors for this would be present at the altar, as above, as below. So you've heard me say that before. Singular focus on figuring out one's purpose / skills. So this is the person that the Fool meets as they're starting off on their journey, and the Magician's like, hey, you know, how's it going? You know, and the Fool's like, oh, I'm all about being here. Like, I am so beyond excited. Think of that youthful energy, right? Very naive and optimistic and green. And so the Magician's going to be like, oh, that's cool. So I see you got a knapsack. Well, you know, what's in your knapsack? And the Fool, he'll be like, you know, before I left home, you know, I said goodbye to my doggy, and I made sure that I packed some snacks in my knapsack because I knew I was going to be getting hungry because I'm like totally taking off in a new direction in life, and I knew I'd get some munchies on the road, right? And the magician, like, he's like, oh, that is so cool. I'll have to check out what snacks are in your knapsack because you got me wondering, and I'm kind of hungry. And they'll be like, you know, where do you think you're going on this journey? Like, what are you all excited about? So at this point in time, the two of them would talk about the tools. So with each of the, you know, on this card, we have each of the suits that are represented, right? So our magician is going to help our fool out by saying, hey, you're going to encounter all these various things on the road, and I really want to do you right. Let's go through the cups, swords, you know, pentacles, wands. Let me tell you what I know and how these tools can help you on your journey, right? And he'll probably also talk about the mindset. Like, you know, dude, I really love the positive mindset you got going on. You're really going to be able to conquer a lot with this mindset. But again, you got to have the tools to back up and accompany that great attitude, right? The as above, so below. So we have that. I think we're off on a good start with this. And then as our fool goes along, he encounters the high priestess, not the warmest energy in the world, but this beautiful lady making quite direct eye contact, which is a little intimidating, right? So with the high priestess, the keywords we have are dualities, mysteries, balance, discovering the story / point of view. So again, with this card, you guys know it's always about that watery intuition, the unknown. This is the energy that has info, but in sharp contrast to, say, the magician, she's not just going to give away this info like our magician did. So as our fool encounters her, here he is, you know, she's going to be like, well, hello, how may I help you? And he's like, oh, it looks like you've got a cool book in your lap. Do you want to share some of that cool info with me? Because I just totally talked to the magician, and he totally told me about all the tools I need for my journey. But it looks like you might know a whole lot that I'm missing from hanging out with the magician. And she'll be like, you know, it took me an awful lot of time and effort to acquire this info, and I'm not just going to hand it to you. So fool, get ready to do your work. You know, as you do the hard work, I will let you know things as appropriate, but I'm not giving you my whole book, you know, or access to what's behind me. You know, you progressively have to make your way on your journey, and then you'll know what you need to know and learn, but I am so not handing it to you. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I'm intimidated, and he backs away. Oh, our poor fool, right? He encounters the friendly magician, and now it's this intimidating presence of the high priestess, right? And I see my mom's on here and Rebecca's on here. Welcome, guys. And let's see, my mom said, good evening. You are looking beautiful this evening. Thank you, Mom. I've got my hair rigged back. I have been outside mowing a little. Well, good. I'm glad you didn't get carried away with that. And Rebecca says, good evening. Just hopped on. Oh, no worries, Rebecca. We've started on our Major Arcana review. And so, you know, how we start with the Fool, we've made it as far as the High Priestess, so you haven't missed much at all. So I'm basically going by the handout from Laura Tempest Zakroff and from my memory of the workshop that she taught myself and the other attendees in Salem as part of the Witch City gathering. So I am going by her sheet, and I want to honor this and do it well. And every so often I might add a little bit of info, you know, on top of her descriptors. And then after we advance through the Major Arcana, you know, this is kind of like glossing the surface, if you will. Then we're going to delve a bit into how she was talking about utilizing math and tarot. So we'll go through that. So yes, so far those are the figures that our Fool has encountered on his journey. And so, feeling like a little uncertain about what in the world was that, right? After encountering the High Priestess, we get to our third card, which is the Empress. And so, our descriptors for the Empress would be the Pyramid of Life. So, this is like literally like the people who give birth to humans, projects, you name it. It's giving birth to things, right? That motherly energy. The Pyramid of Life, Nexus of Creation, Power Dynamic, Support and Nurturing. So this is the mother figure of tarot, right? Would be the Empress. And so as our fool makes his way on his journey and encounters the Empress, he's like, oh, wow, hi. He's like, who are you? And she's going to be like, oh, I'm just chilling. The Emperor's off, kind of being a bit dramatic right now. He can be a little intense at times. So I'm just hanging out here with all my lush luxuries, breathing in that fresh air. My kids are somewhere off playing, and I'm just kind of like looking majestic AF, you know, like I'm just hanging out. And it'll be like, oh, cool. Can I hang out and rest with you? Because I just talked to the High Priestess. She was kind of a lot for me. The Magician was really cool and taught me a lot, but I feel like I need to hang out with somebody who's kind of like really chill and nurturing. And I'm sure you made something good to eat too, right? Of course I did. I have to feed my hungry family. You can hang out with me. And so he's going to go and chill out with her. So you guys know I got to tell a story as we go along, okay? We're making a narrative because tarot's all about creating these narratives. So our fool's then going to hang out with the Empress for a bit. Well, then here comes the Emperor, right? So our descriptors are the foundation that provides guidance and rules, solidifying security. So he's the father of tarot. This is the one who, just like the stereotypical father in society, lays the law down. It's all about the rules, right? So as our fool now is going to encounter him. Well, hello, who are you? And he's going to be like, I am the Emperor. What is it that you want? Why are you here? What's your intention? Oh, I just started off on a new journey and I was just talking to the Empress and she's pretty cool and she hooked me up with some food and made me feel at home. And he's going to be like, that's fine that you're here right now with my family, but I expect you to be gone by the morning, you know? And if you were to have any, say, ill intent toward my family, I will hold you accountable for that, you know? So we will continue to be kind to you, but don't take advantage of our kindness, you know. And the fool will be like, ooh, I don't know. And he's like, sure, no problem, sir. And then he's going to go back and probably hang out with the Empress a little bit, okay? Because this is the guy, like, he's going to talk to you straight. So with the fool, he might wander back over, and you know that he's really naive. Well, the Emperor could hook him up with the knowledge about, on this journey, about sticking to, you know, what he believes to be the truth, doing what's right. How it can be difficult at times to know right and wrong. It could be the laws of the land, cultures of people, how to navigate through this journey, right? To where ideally he doesn't have any harm and doesn't do harm to other people. And then, of course, when he was hanging out with our Empress, backtracking to her, he's learning all about love and nurturing, maybe a little bit about cooking, because he's got to eat for these snacks that he's got in his knapsack, you know? So I just looked over to make sure there's no new comments. So we're going to keep going along on our journey. And the fifth card would be the Hierophant. So descriptors would be cycles, circles, doctrine, higher concepts, regulation of mysteries and tradition. So our fool, when they encounter this one, it'll be like, oh, hi. It looks like you're similar to the High Priestess, but at the same time, gosh, I'm getting like masculine vibes from you. You seem kind of intense yourself. And the Hierophant's going to be like, I hold the keys to occult, mystical knowledge. If you're willing, again, to do the legwork and, be open and present and to do your reading, then I am totally here to help you. But you're not going to gain access to, say, my, group or what have you without doing the needed steps first, And so the Fool's like, oh, wow, it looks like I'm going to be hanging out here for a while because this looks like a lot of work to do. And you've already got 2 people at your feet trying to figure out what they need to know to totally join your group. And it must be one exclusive group if everybody's trying to get into it. And he'll be like, oh, yeah, mine is the best group ever. We have the best parties, best food. We've got chocolate chip cookies and all the awesome stuff. And we've got some of the best books, and we've got a flat screen TV. And the Fool will be like, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to totally hook it up. I'm going to go to the library, and I will see you later. And so he's going to camp out. He's going to chill out with the Hierophant for a bit and see what he can pick up to gain access, right? So I'm having fun. I really love telling stories with these. So bear with me. Our little tale is weaving. It's going to get interesting the further we go along in our storyline. So the 6th card is the Lovers. So the key words would be motion and movement, exploration, reminder to be human, what moves our hearts. So finally, okay, after doing what he needed to do to get, the access to, say, the Hierophant, now he's moving along and meeting the Lovers. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, wow, like what have I stumbled upon? And he's looking at what he believes to be like this angel, Gabriel, in the sky, and this male and female, rather exposed. They don't have any garments on. And there's this brilliant sun in the sky. And I think that he's in so much awe that he's just kind of watching what's unfolding. And so the Lovers, they'll be like, hey, we're kind of talking right now, but maybe when we find some fig leaves and somewhere to hang out, you can totally chill with us, and we will talk to you about what it means to love yourself and other people and to do everything with compassion and kindness. And he'll be like, oh, that is so cool. And he's like, I will totally help you find fig leaves too, and we will work together. And they're like, all right, awesome. And then Gabriel at some point will fly away because he's got a lot of divine type work to do, so he can't hang out, Oh, goodness. And so our 7th card would be the Chariot. So we have direction, forward, but more focus, putting together opposing forces, collective energy. And so when our Fool encounters this energy, is like, oh my gosh, I have just left from like chilling out with the Lovers, and that was great. And I totally want to be your friend because I've totally been taught how to approach others with an open heart and all this good stuff, and be open to like forming good friendships and so forth. And the Chariot's like, you know what? I am going to teach you about how to take life literally by the reins. He's like, where do you want to go on your journey? And the Fool at this point in time, he might have a little bit of an idea, and he'll tell the guy with the Chariot. And the guy with the Chariot is like, okay, cool. He's like, I'm going to teach you how to drive this thing. And then after you earn it, you can do some work around here, around my home and my farm for me. This Chariot can be yours, and then you can take off and do your journey with it. And it will totally help your feet out because you won't be on your feet. You've got to be tired, right? You'll be like, oh, this is such a cool idea. And I like these sphinxes that you have instead of horses. And I like the shade that I could get with the way your Chariot's set up. So I would totally take you up on that offer, So the two of them are going to hang out and talk about how to have that focus, and about taking ownership over your free will and making things happen, right? So then we're going to move into the 8th major arcana card, which is strength. And we have interweaving of mental and physical strength, wisdom, and care and application. So one of the things that I look at when I look at the strength card, I think of a horse with blinders on. They have that single-minded focus, and they're very intent on achieving it. So it's like you're taking that chariot energy, but again, you're very resilient and focused with this strength card, right? So it makes sense to me that this follows the chariot. So for the sake of continuing our dialogue, the Fool encounters this beautiful lady, and he's not sure what she's doing with that lion. He's like, are you crazy? He's like, that lion could totally hurt you. The lady's like, well, I don't know if my friend has any dental problems. Like, I'm trying to hold his mouth open. He acts like he's in pain. And out of love, and because I care about this little living creature that's my friend, I'm trying to help him by assessing what's going on with him. And the Fool's like, aren't you afraid that he'll accidentally bite your hand off or get mad at you? Or maybe you'll put him in more pain than what he's already in and you'll somehow die? No, I'm not afraid of dying. I have faith that I am strong enough and skilled enough to do what I'm doing and, be respectful of the lion's space, And again, this is my friend, and I have to be brave and strong to be present for him and get him through this ordeal. And the Fool's like, oh, you are so cool. He's like, can I hang out with you and help you with the lion? Of course you can. You can hang out with me, and I will teach you how I have lived on this land by myself with my house and farming, and I don't need anybody other than my trusty lion here who keeps me company, and he helps bring me back food, and we take care of each other. And because I'm very driven, when I set my mind on something, I do it. And my friend is just like me as far as like we mesh well, And if I'm tired, he lets me ride his back. So we make a good team. And the Fool's like, all right, very cool. I want to learn more about being strong and resilient from you. So then he's going to hang out with her for a bit. Not to mention the lion. So hopefully he doesn't try to do anything with the lion because he doesn't have the knowledge and experience that she does, because she's a survivor, right? So then he's going to hang out with her and accumulate that knowledge and experience. I'm sure he'll help her out on her farm, maybe help her with cooking, and maybe even help with the lion to what extent he can. I'm sure that's an intimidating endeavor. When then he encounters the 9th card, which is the Hermit. And we have descriptors as rounding towards completion with introspection. Consider past, present, and future. So then our Fool encounters our Hermit. And he's like, hey, sir, I think I've gotten lost. This is a really desolate area. I'm not seeing any greenery. It's kind of rocky, so I keep falling and stumbling. I'm kind of bad for that anyway, getting myself into these situations. And the Hermit is like, Fool, I really don't have any time for you. Don't you see that I am on the top of this mountain with my lantern? And the whole reason I'm out here in my state with my walking stick was to get some silent introspection, because ideally I want time to take care of myself a little bit because I've been really stressed out lately, or I've been really confused as well. And eventually I want to make my way back down the mountain, and I could totally meet you down on the base of the mountain when I'm ready. But I'm currently engaged in work, so I don't really have a lot of time to mess with you. And the Fool's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will totally go. I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to watch how you chill out for a moment. I won't say a word. So just think about how a kid would act. And I'm going to totally wait for you at the base of that mountain. And when you're ready, could you share with me what you find out? Because I feel like whatever it is must be important, and it can help me on my journey. Sure, Fool. Go sit back there and keep your mouth shut, and I'll talk to you when I'm ready. This is a lesson of being patient, because patience is a virtue. Be careful, though, because I see you didn't bring a lantern. So because I'm a good human being, I'll briefly turn my lantern toward you so you can see where you're going. But otherwise, I'm keeping my lantern because it's got the star in it. It's got my hope. It's my illumination and light. You need to ultimately go find your own lantern. Okay, all right. And then he would back away. All right. So that would be his interaction with the hermit. The hermit is a very single energy. It's not about any group dynamics or interacting with other people. It's about getting that inner reflection, especially life is rough. So if there's a painful transition of sorts, the need to have some introspection and time to think is important, right? So here we are, and we have made it to the 10th card. Okay. So with this, we have the Wheel of Fortune, and there's an awful lot going on with it. So I'll hold it up for you guys here so you can check it out. And so with this, we have the cycle of fate, starting, ending cycles, and completion. So by the time our Fool encounters this energy, which is not it's not a person, it's a wheel. So we often reference the wheel like the seasons in life, or it could be looked at like how the moon has different phases, different cycles. Nothing is permanent. We don't have a state of permanence. There's always change that we're going through constantly. It's a constant part of life. So this would be our Fool getting halfway through his journey and thinking, wow, I know a lot more than when I very first started my journey. And I really feel like I've gained some momentum. It was a little bumpy at times, especially with the High Priestess encountering that really intimidating lion with strength. The Hierophant was not a cakewalk. But for the most part, he's going to be thinking this is a really cool journey. And you can also think of him as literally encountering like this wheel, this mystical wheel out in, say, the middle of the woods on his path. And it says, the Sphinx on top, it may have signage that says, spin it. Because now his path is separated. Let's say he's at a crossroads. Well, which way does he go? He didn't think to pack a map. He's just got his snacks in his knapsack, and the knowledge about the tools that he would be encountering from the magician. And he knows to love people and be compassionate. And he knows to be patient and hardworking. But he doesn't really have anything else useful, really. So he's going to go ahead and say to heck with it. He's going to spin the wheel, and it's going to tell him which direction to go. So we have a decision being made, right? It's the fates. This is like also kind of like a fatalistic thing coming into play. So then the 11th card, we're about to start that. Let's see here. My husband says, OMG, this is the greatest story ever told. Oh, thank you, honey. And Rebecca says, I love the storytelling. Oh, thank you so much. It makes my heart happy. I love telling a story with tarot. And actually, to briefly allude to it, the Lenormand presentation by Brenda Elizabeth was amazing. There is some tarot influences with it. I think our group would probably like it if they missed out on the presentation. But it would totally complement tarot or be a practice to itself. But basically, it's a very simplified image on cards, and especially when you put them together in strings, they tell a story. So tarot and Lenormand tell stories. So I think that's cool. I'm glad you're enjoying my story because I'm having fun telling it. So the 11th card, because stuff's about to get real now. We're going on that latter half of the journey, is the 11th card, which is Justice. So the descriptors would be balancing effort, choices, understanding, complex duality. So our Fool's going to encounter him. And it'll be like, well, hi. He's like, I totally was at this crossroads after I spun this really cool wheel in the forest. And like, it come across this really cool, like, I don't know, palace. I went up the stairs because it looked like people were coming and going, and now you're here. And this gentleman is going to tell him, Fool, he's like, I'm aware of your journey so far, It's been brought to my attention the good things that you've done on your journey, but then there's some things that you've made mistakes on that weren't so great. So when you were hanging out with Strength, you meant well by trying to help her with her garden, but there was a day you forgot to water it and her plants died. So she didn't get as much produce back. So she didn't get everything that she should have gotten. And you totally forgot to feed and water the lion like you told her you was. And with the lovers, you totally chilled out with them, but you never stood by what you said about finding them the fig leaves. You wanted their info, but you didn't stand by what you said. And the fool's like, going to be like, oh my gosh, how did you know that? And he'd be like, fool, that's for me to know. You don't need to be concerned with that. But I am to judge you and hold you accountable for your actions. And so, because of what you did, I want you to sit down with a notebook and write about what you did, the choice you made, and then write about what you should have done. And then you're going to come back with that notebook and you're going to read to me and the rest of the people that are in here about the mistakes you made and what you learned from them, what you could have done differently, so that I know you learned from it, and then the other people know as well. And then I want you to do a week's worth of community service so that you know that the world doesn't revolve around you. Do you understand, fool? And the fool would be like, oh man, bummer. All right, I guess so. And then he's going to go off and he's going to find his notebook. Now, I was just now inspired by my own way of disciplining my children. I learned early on when they were little. I don't do it as much anymore because they're teenagers, but when they were little and they would make mistakes, and that's after that, we would talk about it. They knew not to do certain actions and they made the poor choice to behave or do something. I told them, I want you to write about what you did and what you could have done differently, and then you come back and you read it to me and your father. Or if it was something that my kids did to each other, then I want you to write a letter about what you did and how you're sorry and how you're going to make good for it, how you're going to move forward, and hug your sister, hug your brother. Oh, they hated that. So that was the inspiration for the notebook, because I actually disciplined that. If you got little kids, it works. It really does with kids. And they hate it because it feels like work to them, like schoolwork. But it gets them to thinking and rationalizing versus yelling as adults. If we yell, think about it. If people yell at us, we just totally block them out. If anything, we close down, we get defensive, right? We feel vulnerable. Well, kids feel that way with this towering adult. So if you're firm and you hold them accountable and you're consistent with that, that's how they learn. And they know the why they don't need to make these mistakes versus just because I said so. Even though, not to get off on a parenting spiel, during my time parenting, I've had no issue as well looking at my kids saying, because I'm your mother and I deserve better than that. I work too dang hard to take care of you. You'll do it because I say so. So I have done a bit of both with my parenting style. So our next card, let's see here. Oh, let me look at my laptop. So Rebecca says, have you ever been to the art museum here and looked at the tapestry work there? I love making up stories, looking at those. I need to do that. Whenever I've been, my kids act like they're so bored. Like, just ask my husband who's on here. We'll generally look at a painting, and then it's like they're off to say the next thing they want to look at. They're getting a little bit better since they've gotten older, but that sounds like a fun thing to do, because I know that the art in that museum is just so beautiful and phenomenal. Like, to know that, like, people painted a lot of the things that are hanging. It's crazy, right? So let's see. Our next card would be the Hangman. And our words for this would be suspend activities to see wisdom, sacrifice to become unstuck. So remember that this is the person, like the energy where they hang upside down to gain a different perspective, and it's like a timeout, a time to rest. So our Fool's going to encounter the Hangman. Oh my gosh, I just finished doing all my work for all my failures. I'm, don't feel so great about them, but I have answered to the consequences. And I'm wondering, oh my gosh, are you okay? I was not expecting to come across you on my journey. And the hangman's like, yeah, I'm totally cool, bro. You see how I'm hanging by one foot and then I'm just kind of like comfortably bending the other leg. And you see how I've got this like yellow halo around my head? I'm totally getting enlightenment. I mean, I don't feel too good. Like the blood's totally rushed to my head. I'm hungry. At times birds will land on me and poop on me. But I ultimately want to seek enlightenment so that I can do better in life. And the fool's like, oh my gosh, can you teach me how to do what you're doing? Because it's scary, but it's kind of cool. I've never seen that. And he's like, yes, fool. I have nothing better to do because I'm simply hanging out here. Find you a noose and I'll tell you what you need to do. And you can totally, literally hang out with me. And the fool's like, very cool. I will be back. And then he'll go find some rope, right? So that would be the time where, the fool's fatigued. He was on a roll. He thought for the most part he was doing good on his journey until then he determined, oh my gosh, I totally lied to people. I didn't keep my obligations. I totally had to answer for it. I really need to rethink what I'm doing so I don't have to like backtrack it and then answer again to justice for things that I could totally prevent. So it's good that he's meeting the hangman on his journey, And so after he hangs out with the hangman for a while and he gets that knowledge and different perspective and he rests, our fool continues his journey and then encounters death. Imagine encountering death on a journey. And the descriptors here would be change after sacrifice, regarding consequences and direction. So the fool's going to totally encounter death. Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. Don't take me. I promise I'll be better. And death is like, fool, I'm not here to take you today. You will literally die one day because everyone must die. But I am here to actually take somebody else because it's time for them to die. However, I rarely mean that when I'm on my journey. I'm actually an indicator of change. Now, I just realized that you were hanging out with my friend, the hangman, and me and him are cool. And he told me that you hung out there with him for days and you obtained that enlightenment and you, of course you rested. And I'm thinking that maybe you might need some help as far as facilitating some change in life. Like, I know it's totally constant and you're doing it without even being aware you're doing it, but I know it can be tough, painful, uncomfortable. That is a part of my bag. Like, you're going to feel that way with change, but I can totally teach you how to embrace change and persevere, especially being you've got more of your journey left to do, right? And the fool's like, dude, you scare me. You kind of freak me out. Is there like a coffee place we could go to, like somewhere public? Because I don't know if you're really what you say you are, but you're right. I do need to learn about embracing change because no, I am not comfortable. This is not as much fun as what it was at the beginning of my journey, hanging out with the magician, the empress. Not so much the emperor, but the other two people were cool. And the death's like, sure, I'm, thirsty anyway from all this death dealing. I will meet you at the local tavern, and because this afternoon we'll just have a cold beer, but if you want coffee, you can have that. Cool. And the two of them go off, and they go to the pub, right? So with this, I love death because, again, it is change. That's the main takeaway with this card would be embracing what's good for us and leaving the rest, So, and it doesn't discriminate, irregardless of male, female, rich, poor. Death happens to all of us, and change happens to all of us too, right? So let's see here. And okay, cool. Making sure there's no new comments because I keep peering over, So the 14th card would be Temperance. And our words would be hearkening back to Chariot, regaining balance after death / the hangman. So this is the part of our journey where the Fool encounters Temperance. Hi, oh my gosh, you're this beautiful angel. I am so thirsty from my journey. Do you think that I could like trouble you for a drink of your water? And she'd be like, Fool, you do look exhausted. Feel free to take your shoes off and dip your feet in the water. And surely I've got 2 cups here. I will totally share this beverage with you. And I'm also going to talk to you about how to maintain balance, because you've been accumulating so much knowledge and experience. And I really feel like that it's easy to feel very overwhelmed because you've been learning about some heavy stuff. So I think you need to rest, maybe put things into perspective. I've totally got some tents, so you can totally take one, sleep in that, So yes, but I only ask that you don't get carried away. So don't keep your feet fully immersed in water. Better yet, why don't you just keep 1 foot in the water at a time, and then the other one on land. That way you're not too lost on your emotions. And you've got that balance between logic and emotion. Because I feel like I'll be able to help you more if you're able to do that and maintain that balance. And the Fool's like, oh, finally, somebody that's not tripping me out and scaring me. I am so glad to meet you. Thank you so much. I will totally go and take you up on one of those chalices, right? So this is a very comforting energy to come across after everything, right, that he's been through. And then we have the devil. And our descriptors for this would be held back or chained by old concepts or toxic habits, revelation of opportunity and resources. So you guys know these people in this card, that chain is loosely around their necks. They're choosing for it to be there, and they've got these tails growing out of their bottoms, which represent their vices. The masculine embracing that power. He loves power. And the lady, she loves the good stuff in life, such as wine, And even though they love their vices, it makes them miserable, but they're choosing to be there. So our Fool, after hanging out with Temperance and he's feeling well rested, encounters this guy. Oh my gosh! What did I do? I've been trying so hard to change and maintain a balance. Like, who in the what are you? And he's like, Fool, I have plenty of chains, and I know that you are gullible. What do you love most? And I will use it against you. And the Fool will be like, I love food. Food is my jam. And sometimes so much so that I am eating too much, and unfortunately I'm gaining some weight on this journey despite how stressed out I am. And the devil will be like, well, Fool, grab a chain, wrap it around your neck because it's mandatory that you do it. I don't do that to anybody. People choose to be here. And I will not be helping you with that. I am not here to help you in any which way. If anything, I will continue every so often to have my servants bring you food to where you'll be tempted to stay here instead of leaving me not knowing where food is coming from. And the Fool will be like, gosh, I am tempted. I'm already, tired from this journey. I can at least hang out with this intimidating devil for a little while and I'll eat and then I can leave whenever I want. But then the Fool doesn't realize that the food is like steak, baked potato, lobster tail, like the best of the best that he couldn't find on the journey. And then he's going to feel more bound to this guy. And so that's the issue to itself about at what point is he going to free himself from his chains and leave this dude, because this is totally hindering his journey, right? Yeah, that would not be a cool person to hang out with, And then, oh my gosh, Rebecca, here I am with my story. The devil card was in your llama's kit. Huh. I would think, and it's just, I know it's a unique perspective. If I would have gotten that card, I probably, how we with Lammas, we evaluate, okay, you know, we're more than halfway through summer. About, okay, what we like about what we're doing with the theoretical seeds we're planting, what we don't. Maybe it's a nod toward, do we have something that we're feeling a bit too attached to? Maybe the outcome, or maybe it didn't go so great, but we're somewhat maybe too hyper focused on it, and it's making us miserable and taking away from happiness. I would put it like something like that, unless you know, of course, your own personal stuff. That's, I know it's personal, or it could be a reflection of this ongoing thing that we all have, our theoretical things that we're bound to, and just thinking, gosh, you know, maybe this isn't what I want, and just kind of figuring your steps forward. That's an intense card to get, though, for a Lammas kit. I got the Three of Pentacles for mine. She says, I mean, it suits a few things I'm dealing with. So I wasn't surprised, but more like, damn it, they are right again. I have done that with cards when I'm doing tarot. I know that feeling, and sometimes, I know it sounds crazy, but I'll be down here and I'll be doing a spread for myself, or I'll even be doing a reading for other people. And it's like if I'm alone and I really interpret these cards, I'll laugh out loud if I'm by myself, or if I'm reading for somebody else, and it's like the reading's hitting home with them, and they're telling me, like, you can see it on their face, like, wow, damn, you know? And it's like you're pulling these like major cards, like the Devil, the Tower, all these things. It brings up like some pretty intense conversations at times, but it's crazy how accurate it is. Like, that's what I tell people all the time. Like, I'm the interpreter, I'm the messenger. It's their energy on the cards. It is wild. Especially when you think about when we go into Pathways and we buy a kit for whatever Sabbath, and then we get this card and it, like, totally hits home. Like, what? Like, of all the bags, I chose this one, you know? But, yeah, I love their kits, though. I still have stuff from previous kits that I use. Let's see here. So now we're about to go into the Tower. So imagine finally getting the gumption to leave the Devil, okay? So with the Tower, which is the 16th card, we have cracked foundation, breakdown, unhealthy things to get back to the ground, new rules. So we're remembering how stuff happens, right? Despite sometimes our best intentions. And, you know, you can't maintain it. If it's built on a theoretical faulty foundation, that tower has to come down. So you could take those bricks, you pick them up, and you build again, right? So our fool finally gets away from the Devil. That was not an easy thing, because the Devil is slick and has been around for millennia, right? He gets away from this Devil and his chain, and and then it's like, oh my gosh, what? And there's people like falling out of this building that's on fire, and like the lightning's hit it, and there's rain. And then he's like, oh my gosh. And he's like, I need to help these guys. But the thing is, he has no way of helping them. They tumbled out of the tower and they totally disappear after hitting them. Their bodies, you know, hit against the mountainside, and then they disappear into the darkness. And the fool watches this tower totally crumble apart. And he thinks, you know what? I'm going to I'm first going to call 911. I'm going to make sure help's on the way. And I'm going to make sure the scene is safe. Because if I make myself, like if I put myself at risk, then I'm just somebody else for them to save. So I got to make sure I got scene safety. But then if the scene is safe, after I call 911, I'm going to see if I can save these guys. Because if they're alive, I'm going to do basic first aid, and I'll stay with them till the ambulance somehow gets here. But it might be a while because it's rocky terrain. And then, after the storm clears, I could do these people a good favor by helping them rebuild. And then it will also be a lesson to me about rebuilding my life and doing right. And again, doing things with love and compassion and kindness. Especially after leaving the Devil, I surely don't want to go back there. So that is our tower energy, right? I threw in a little bit of basic first aid too. So say you're getting a diverse story with me, with some help some really helpful tidbits about if you come across somebody or people who need help. That's what they always teach. You know, you call 911 so you get back up there because they've got all the tools and the medicines, and you always check for scene safety. You don't want to be the hero and then you become another person that has to be saved, and then you can't help anybody, right? But what I love about the Tower is, again, there's beauty with this card. I don't cringe on these bad cards. There's a beauty to rebuilding, because who wants to sustain paths in life that are not sustainable or good for us, right? So, after hanging out with that energy, now we come across the Star, which is the 17th Major Arcana card. And so with this one, we have possibilities of hope / the future, of the new cycle, give and take, rest and plot for future. And again, it is really similar because, again, just like our card with Temperance, have you guys noticed? These two figures here are maintaining a balance. They're both restful energies as well. So I really, really like that, you know. And the other thing with Temperance is remember this symbol stands for fire. So it's all about containing that fire. And Temperance has that third eye too, you know, which is a really cool little, you know, tidbit of knowledge with that. So let's say our Fool then, after encountering the Tower and he's really tired, comes across this beautiful lady. She looks quite busy with the endeavor of maintaining this balance, and the stars are so beautiful in the night sky. Well, hi, you know, what are you doing? And she says, you know, I'm maintaining a balance between, you know, the balance with the water and the land, with how sometimes our emotions and logic are at odds, but every day I remain hopeful that I follow my North Star and I'll find my way no matter what life throws at me. But essentially, I do try to help people and maintain a balance and always be looking up and forward, not behind me. And the Fool's like, you know, I've been through a lot of heavy stuff lately between the Devil and the Tower. Could I just sit with you? And I'll just do exactly what I did when I was hanging out with Temperance. You know, my feet are hurting me a lot, but I'll just put one in the water, one on land, and maybe you can kind of help me, you know, as far as like just being my friend. I've learned a lot. I don't necessarily need to learn anything, but I do like your attitude about being hopeful, because I think the Devil and that whole experience with the Tower, even though I helped them rebuild and stuff, has really sucked away a bit of my hope because life seems rough. And she's like, Fool, you can hang out with me and I will tell you why it's important to be hopeful, and why it's always important to look at the stars and marvel, and just to remember how small we are in contrast to the whole universe. And the Fool's like, you're so cool. I totally want you to be my friend. So he's going to hang out with her energy for a bit. And then we're going to go to the 18th card. So we're making our way. This is the Moon. And the key words would be call to introspection, great lunar mysteries, power of the tides to rise or sink. So, you know, with this one, basically after the energy of the Star card and resting, being hopeful, right? Now our Fool's encountering this image like, oh my gosh, what in the world? I see the sun and this like moon, but it doesn't look quite real to me. And there's these two impending towers. I don't know if anybody's standing watching those and if they're going to somehow try to shoot me or why the two towers are there. There's this wolf and dog that are like howling and barking. I don't know if they're going to try to run at me and bite me. And then there's this crustacean coming out of the depths of the water. And it's bigger than any crustacean I think I've ever seen. I mean, not even Red Lobster has them that big. They must have jipped me whenever I did order any lobster tails or anything. And I don't even know where I should go. Do I stay where I am on my path? Do I try to approach these figures? Or do I somehow try to sneak around them and get past these two towers? And with the limited illumination I have, I don't know. I just don't know if I should stay or if I should go. I don't know what's real and what's not real. And so I think what I'll do is I'm just going to find a place way away from these guys and inwardly reflect as far as my intuition goes, and also value my logic. But I know this is a card all about reflecting on the inside turmoil of my intuitions and emotions and trying to make sense about what I'm looking at, knowing not everything I think is real, just like everything I'm not seeing in this card is real. So again, we have cycles, we've got mountains in the distance on this path, so our Fool totally knows there's more obstacles to be had, but he just rested up with the Star. He's not ready to be bummed out again. He's like, really? And I just got back on my feet, you know? So then the 19th card is the Sun, which stands for celebration, nearing completion or wholeness, success, joy, contentment. So our Fool he ended up making it past the energy of the Moon card and found his way. And now he's like, oh my gosh, who are you? And the little baby, the little child introduces themselves saying, hi, I am what they reference as a little cherub. This is my garden and this is my horse. And we totally have it good here. All the sunflowers are growing tall and bright and yellow, and we always have that big, beautiful sun, so our plants grow great. And one of my jobs is to remind people about how victorious we are. So I carry this big, long red flag. It keeps me warm sometimes if I get the chills because I'm not really wearing anything. Around here, they don't trip out, you know, about clothes necessarily because I'm part of a nudist colony. And we do use horses for transportation around here, but it's a small island, so we don't trip. And the Fool's like, oh, wow, this is really, really cool. Is it cool if I stay for a bit and rest up? And yeah, I think this is a great energy, you know? And this little guy is going to be like, yeah, you're cool. Just check in at the main office because you'll have to sign in and stuff. We'll make sure that we treat you well as a guest. We'll teach you about what it's like as far as having your hard efforts pay off because Fool, from what I've heard about you, you've been through an awful lot and you've had some victories, and I don't think you give yourself enough credit about your victories. Oh man, you heard about me too. But I like it. He's like, at least it's something good. So I am totally about going to that main office to check in, use the bathroom. I'll probably try to find more snacks because I don't have a whole lot left in my knapsack. And he's like, totally good idea, and I will see you. And then off goes our Fool, right? He's going to go check in. And then we have Judgment, which is the 20th Major Arcana card. And so we have the descriptors Double Wheel of Fortune, the Elevated Zero, the New Wiser Cycle, and Judging. So with this, it's all about the cause and effect. Again, we're at the end of a journey. There's been successes and victories, but then there's been mistakes and failures. And so this is a lot of like emotional trauma, baggage, the need to start clean. A word that comes to mind would be forgiveness, right? Because this whole cycle has been a learning curve. So our Fool encounters this guy like, oh my gosh, Gabrielle, last I'd seen you, you were hanging out with the lovers. Like, you were totally like blessing them in their relationship. You are so scary right now because I'm seeing these dead people totally come out of their coffins and they've all got their arms up. And he's like, what is going on here? It's like such a different vibe from the lovers. And Gabriel says, Fool, you have made it toward the end of your journey and you're a little hard on yourself. You have done a lot of good, and yes, you've made mistakes, but know that you're forgiven. You know, you just have to forgive yourself first. That way you can continue on to bigger and better things and not be taking around all the baggage from all the past failures and mistakes, because humans make them. And as the angels, we're part of spirit, and we're always present even when we think that you're not, or when you think we're not. And so my horn is as a reminder to you and everybody else that there can be a thing of living again and starting anew, and know that you're fine just the way you are. And the Fool's like, oh my gosh, okay, you're not as scary to me, and what you're saying really resounds with me. And even though these other people around you kind of creep me out, like I don't know what to think about all this, I can certainly be present and listen to more of what you have to say about the subject. And Gabriel's like, cool. So see, we're to that. Now we're about to do the last card of the Major Arcana, which would be the World, 21st card. And it stands for completion and direction, celebration, equity, resolution. So just like the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail, we are at the completion of a journey. And what I loved is when I went to Salem, one of the women who was attending with me, her name was Bree, and we are friends. It's not like we're like communicating on a daily basis, but we definitely hit it off and we're friends. But she revealed to the class that the interesting thing about the World is she only shows what she wants to show. So like in this card, we can see a lot. But the way that my friend said it, at this point in time, she's only showing you what she wants to show you. The rest she's going to keep concealed. So that's still kind of showing, maybe holding things a bit close to the cuff, but again, revealing what you're comfortable revealing, and of course, things coming full circle. So the Fool encounters this lady, and she's like, well, hello, Fool. You have made it to the end of this journey. You know, you've set off way back when you started off at 0 at the beginning of your journey, and you've gained knowledge and experience and friendships, and you've really grown as an individual. So I feel like you're ready to start on the new the new journey. Like, where do you really want to go from here? Just again, know that you got to maintain a balance as you do so, but don't forget to have some fun while you do it, and don't be so serious all the time, because life can be hard. So you can't be too serious all the time. And the Fool's like, it looks like you totally have it going on, hanging out here. You look pretty comfortable. I want you to teach me how to twirl those wands that you got in your hands, because I know back from talking to the magician, it was all about that passion and creativity in life. And it looks like you've got a pretty good grip on things, and I want to make a difference in the world and apply myself. So I think I'll just hang out here for a minute, but then I'm totally going to go and start back on another new journey, because it has been such a trip, a wild ride getting here, that I wouldn't do it any differently. And she's like, Fool, that's the whole point, and I am proud of you. So see, and then she goes away. So that is the conclusion of my tarot story through the Major Arcana. That was fun. So the next thing would be to go into how to use math with tarot. So we're going to dive into that just a little bit here, because I know that it was a lot to go through all the Major Arcana. But I wanted to do more than just read, the words off of the reference sheet. I like to be inventive and creative. Oh, Rebecca, thank you so much. It means the world to me. I'm glad that you love that teaching, that story style. Because even in, like in my book club, I'll use a tarot card for inspiration, and I'm just doing one draft. I'll just start writing. I'll construct a story. That's the beauty with tarot. You can totally do storytelling, not just divination and so forth with it. It's a really great medium for, I think, storytelling. But thank you very much. It makes my heart happy that you said that, So with doing math, so the way that she referenced it on her sheet, she has shapes can correlate to numbers. What do the shapes indicate? So I'll leave that. I'll touch on that toward the end. There's one shape in particular I remember she did on her dry erase board. She did a few, but I'm just going to do the one because it's the one I remember. What numbers are repeating in your spread and how do they interact? So that's, you know, say as you're doing your spreads, if you have repetition with your numbers, if like I journal as I do my cards, I'll write down 2 or 8. And I'll think first and foremost, what does that number mean to me? But then you can totally Google the meaning of the number 7, 8, what have you. And it goes into these descriptors, which may or may not resonate with you, right? But looking for patterns is important. She says, with the major arcana, what are the base numbers, the base number cards you can look to, either by addition or multiplication? So we're going to do a little bit of math here. So let's say, let's think here. Let's do, how about the Emperor? I'm randomly pulling him out. So the Emperor is a 4. So what numbers would we need to add to get to, say, 4? So you've got what? 2 plus 2 would be 4. Now we only have, say, the High Priestess. Okay, that would be 2. And we don't have, other than the Magician, he would be 3. We don't have another number here to take us up to 4. So ideally, I don't know if this was the best card to do this with, but ideally you would want the cards that you would pick out to equal the number. It would be like, you know how when I do our weekly spreads, it'll be like the 3 cards that contribute to the significator, which would be the theme. You know how I do that every week. These would be the cards that mathematically would equal, say, the main card. I don't think that was the best example, so I'm going to think this one through for a minute. Let's see if I can think of another one that would be good. Maybe this one would be good. Okay, so for the Lovers, which is the 6th card, right? So we'd have Hierophant, which is 5, and the Magician card, which is 1. So if you add 5 plus 1, you get 6. And look at how it forms like a triangle. So basically this would be the outcome of these two. So when looking at your cards, you would line them up and you would think about how the energies of the Magician and the Hierophant would be relevant to, say, the Lovers. These two energies, how they add up to equate to this, you know. So that would be an example. Or, let's see here. What else could we do here? How about the Devil? That guy, let's see him. So we could do... we could do 10 and then 5. So the Wheel of Fortune and the Hierophant. So it's 10 plus 5 equals 15. So just kind of like what we did with the Lovers, how would the Wheel of Fortune and Hierophant play into the energy of the Devil card? So, and another thing that she did would be multiplication. So let's think here. So we would have like 4 plus let's see here. Let's do 4 plus 4, or not 4 plus 4, but 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 4 times 4 equals 16. And that is the Tower card. So if we're looking at 4s, then let me find it here because I've got them shuffled up here. So I've got my Emperor, that's 4. Then you could have other cards that would equal up to say 4, which would be, let's see here. So if you add up the Magician and Empress, together they would make for 4. 4 times 4. 4 times 4 to get to 16. So I don't know. I mean, I almost wish I had Laura right here, because that morning, like, she had her whiteboard and she was going through all these examples and putting stuff on them. And I'm just like marveling, like I had never heard of this before. Now, the group of us did encourage her, like, you need to write a book. Like, that's what she's really good at. It's one of the things is writing books. She made a face. I'm not sure if, you know, she looked like she was contemplative. I don't know if she'll ever write a book about doing math with tarot, but it's probably going to be one. If she does, I've yet to see it. But that's what she did that morning. She was taking combinations of cards to see what equals out to your significator, your main card. And she did it in such a way where I'm thinking, this is like really cool, even though that's not my strength is math. But I'm like, I really like how she thinks, you know. And like, so she would make these various triangles, and she's saying to be mindful about which way that it points, you know. Are you asking more so a question about, say, fire, where the outcome would be south, or if it's an earthly type thing, the 2 cards would point more so to the, say, north when you're pulling your 3 cards. So yeah, so it was like, it was trippy. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if it was helpful to you, great. That was my intention with showing a little bit of math. That was probably part of the reason I was hesitant to go over her material, because I just want to honor her and do it justice. And I am awesome at what I do with my style and tarot reading, you know. But I am not, you know, this is her, like, knowledge when it comes to especially the math. It's like, man, I'm like, I definitely want to touch base on it. But I would say totally do what resounds with you with that, you know. So before I hop off here, because I know, I mean, I spent most of my time reviewing and telling my story with the major arcana, and I kind of went over just a couple examples with the math. But again, you know, with your addition, multiplication, look at which cards contribute to a card, you know, by it being like an equivalent after you combine them, basically. So I guess if nobody has anything, as always, I am so grateful for your presence and your feedback. I love that our group is diverse. I've always been appreciative of the support that you've given me. And I really enjoy doing these go lives because I just love interacting with our group, you know. And see, I had never, Rebecca, I've never seen it before either. Imagine how I felt seated in the audience, and here she is in all her badassery. She's a bad butt. Laura Tempest Zakroff in front of the class in this haunted basement in the Hawthorne Hotel. And she told us, I'm going to teach you how to do some math, you know, with tarot. And I'm thinking, wow, like I've never heard of that either. And gosh, she did just such a great job with it. You know, I think part of it is math's not my strength. And plus it was just so much. I was a sponge soaking up all these different workshops and info. Like By the end of the weekend, my head hurt. Like my brain felt like a sponge, like it was about to explode, you know? And it was so much energy to take in this room full of people. And, you know, it's really cool because I gained different perspectives and ways of looking at things from not only the presenters, but the people who went there, like me. But it was like sometimes some heavy stuff got brought up, like it does with tarot. So for a weekend of just jam-packed tarot workshops, and you're reading for your colleagues that are next to you, and you're taking in what you can of Salem, which wasn't so bad. It wasn't, but it was too much temptation for me. I could not live there without going broke. Like every store had rocks, crystals, tarot cards, like bam, 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 going down Essex. Like I enjoyed visiting, and their seafood was great. But I wouldn't want to live there just because I know me. And if I have the money and my bills are paid, I just go ahead and I buy whatever. But then I think that would be one heck of a trend. But it would be cool to be surrounded by people who are all about the metaphysical and tarot all the time. Not just during, say, a gathering, but like to have that be part of your community and to be part of that history, even though it's a sad history with the hangings and all that went on there, unfortunately. And the thing that kind of came out with that, a lot of it was politics, was why people were hung. They weren't even witches. A lot of them were healers, or they had a powerful position, or the prize cow that somebody wanted, and that's why they accused the person of witchcraft, you know. And let's see, but maybe not more mugwort candles. No, I know. I need to put my mugwort candle in something. So she's still currently with me on my altar. And you see, this looks nothing like weed. Do you see this? This is what they were tripping out about. You see that? But the thing is the lady who makes them, her name is June. She said that mugwort was something they harvested last year in Salem, that the witches go to places off the beaten path and they get mugwort. And mugwort's commonly grown in Salem in abundance, apparently. And so when I went to the airport, I've talked to a couple other people about this, getting their perspectives. Being I try to carry it on because I was worried about checking it in and having it broken in some way from where they throw luggage around. A lot of people have basically thought that maybe somebody could try to put something in one of these that they could use on a plane to cause harm. And that's why, as big as it is, because here it is with my head holding it up, that they were making sure there was nothing in it, which honestly, when they scanned it, they had to just see predominantly mugwort and this wick. I'm glad they didn't make me throw it away. I just remember standing there embarrassed and, you know, yeah, I felt frustrated and angry. I understood that they're keeping people safe and they're doing their jobs, but all of that over the candle. That was a hard lesson learned, was check it in. They'll still scan your stuff, but check it in. That way, if it's anything with herbs, candles, you name it. I mean, they even took all my tarot decks out of my carry-on. They put all my stuff out on the counter. And that candle was wrapped up in the bag I bought it in, plus one of my shirts that you normally see me wear, because I was really patting the heck out of it to make sure that nothing happened to it, you know. And thank you. I'm glad. Looking back, I can smile. But that morning, I remember calling my husband up, and I was in a tearful state. Like, Tim, you won't believe what is going on right now. You know, I was upset. And I got in control of it, you know, but I was like, oh my gosh, here I am. The longer I stood, I'm thinking, what's going to happen to me and what's going to happen to the candle? Well, yes, you didn't want to break it. I try to take it with me also. I know. And this lady makes so many beautiful candles. I mean, I was looking at them that night like, wow. But that mugwort really jumped out at me, you know. So yeah. Well, for what it's worth, I have as always am thankful. Thanks for hanging out with me. And we'll see. I might do maybe a show and tell of a deck, or oh no, I might do that tomorrow, because I know Brenda Elizabeth is doing another go live where in Salem she gave us a bag full of charms that you would see like on a bracelet, but it's to be used how to use charms with divination. Now she's got that going tomorrow evening, so I'll probably want to tune into that. So I'll probably do something maybe during the day, you know. I got stopped for a cookie cutter once. Really? I just don't think in those terms of, is this gonna harm someone? Me neither. I do, but I don't. You know, and I've heard stories where people have told me various things they've tried to carry on that you wouldn't think you could hurt somebody with. We wouldn't normally think about it. They totally go there with their thinking. And it is stressful, you know. So very cool. Well, I will chat more later. And yeah, thanks for keeping me company. Good night.